We're here to cram for the exam. Welcome back. Today's topic, public opinion.
Public opinion is crucial to the American government, founded on popular sovereignty. And certainly when you're talking about public opinion, we have to put that on the political, ideological line.
Remember, we're talking political socialization. Why do I think politically the way that I do? And Andy, there are many variables, many demographic characteristics that sway me, push me either left on the line or right on the line.
That's right. And some of those factors can be gender, they can be region, they can be age, things like race, religion. All of the factors can shape how we think.
Let's talk about that line. Andy, if you're left on the line, you're liberal. If you're right on the line, you're conservative. If you're left, you're a member of the Democratic Party. If you're right, you're the member of the Republican Party.
And if you're in the middle, you're a moderate, sometimes called a swing voter, or sometimes you cast what's known as a split ticket ballot.
We'll talk more about those independents later, Andy, but let's talk a little bit about what a Democrat looks like and what a Republican looks like.
Well, certainly a typical Democrat is from northern cities, and we know that African Americans are the most loyal group in the Democratic Party, but we also have different factions, including Latinos, Jewish voters, union members, all part of the Democratic base.
Republicans living in the red states, Andy, tend to be a little bit more educated, tend to be more middle class, they tend to be more Protestant, they tend to be more Caucasian, they tend to be older, and oftentimes might find themselves in a suburb or in a rural location. Andy, these are the red states, and those blue states are Democrats.
And of course, what we're talking about with liberal and conservative is political ideology. And political ideology is a set of beliefs about what individuals think the government should do.
And Andy, let's talk a little bit more about where on the line you and I might be. If you're further off to the left, Andy, if you are a staunch Democrat, you are much more ideological, much more firm in your views, and you'd be considered part of the base of the Democratic Party.
And these people believe in an expanded role of government in economic policies to regulate business and to help marginalized citizens. Whereas on social policies, liberals believe in less government interference with personal liberty issues.
Conversely, let's look at the farther side on the right, the Republicans. These Republican activists, loyal to their party, are looking for less government intervention in the economy, but a greater role in the government's dictating moral policy.
So someone who favors tax increases would tend to be liberal, while someone who favors cutting regulations on business, lowering the minimum wage, would be conservative.
But Andy, you're right, the rank and file, not those that are as firmly ideological, tend to be more in the middle. And as we'll talk later, this shows a weakening of political parties as more and more Americans see themselves as moderates. But Andy, here's the question I have for you. How do we measure this? How do we know that these demographic characteristics are in fact correct?
Well, there's a couple of different devices you can use. One would be the election outcomes, but the other would be the results of opinion polls.
Scientifically collected public opinion polls, Andy, have become prevalent in our political process. Using a scientific method, a random sample, we can ascertain what millions of Americans are thinking by simply asking them a few questions.
That's right. And an educated consumer of opinion polls has to know these aren't perfect, that the most important opinion poll is that on a ballot box from Election Day, but that a scientific opinion poll typically has a margin of error that you can measure as a way to indicate how accurate is this poll.
Andy, when we're talking public opinion and how we measure it, invariably we have to start talking about a pluralist society versus an elite society. And we know that the Founding Fathers really limited the role public opinion would play. In the Constitution itself, only the House of Representatives was given over to a direct election. The Senate, the President, and the Supreme Court was really held in elite hands. Would that still be true today?
Well, to a degree, but we also know that because politicians have such wide access to opinion polls, that politicians of all branches of government are constantly surveying where public opinion is.
When you talk public opinion, you also talk about political efficacy. How do I, as a typical voter, understand our government, and is the government responsive to me? Andy, public opinion has grown increasingly more and more important as technology has made it easier and easier for you and I to participate. We're here to cram for the exam. Today we're talking about public opinion. No fancy words.
No fancy suits.
Plain talk about issues you need to know.
Just in time.